and welcome to another episode of LSU Live here on the Voice of College Football Network. I'm your host, Grant Sashray, joined here by Zach Junda, of course, who's also my co-host for the show. Well, we're both co-hosts. We both have equal representation of this channel. And, Zach, been a very busy last few days for LSU, of course. Well, except on the football side, right? I mean, we're going to, of course, start off talking about football, but, of course, a lot of stuff happened with the baseball team. A lot of stuff happened with the basketball team. At the men's basketball team as well, we'll also talk about that. And also women's basketball, of course. I think we all heard the news now before we hopped on. Actually, Kate Koval is transferring to LSU from Notre Dame, who's a former five-star from this previous recruiting class. And, of course, Aaliyah Del Rosario. Of course, when that news came out, Aaliyah Del Rosario transfers. And we don't know where she's going to land, but we wish her the best. And she's kind of we talked about this in the last show, how a lot of these freshmen that enter the women's basketball program, they really don't become big contributors right away. The only ones we've seen so far have been Flau'jae and Michaela Williams, but a lot of Ken's best players have been transfers. I mean, Alexis Morris, Angel was a transfer from Maryland. I mean, a lot of our big-time players have been transfers. Unfortunately, for some reason, we just can't get the freshmen to get developed.
Yeah, Nisa Moro, another one of the marquee transfers. But, yeah, I mean, this is the world that not just women's basketball, but apparently all college sports are in. And luckily, Kim Mulkey seems to be pretty good at playing the game. It might be a little taxing on her, but what did John Hamm say in Mad Men? That's what the money's for. Well, that's what your money's for, Kim.
Yeah, that's kind of that's the thing about college sports. Not a lot of coaches can get both the high school recruiting and the transfer portal right. Kim Mulkey's definitely got the transfer portal right. I mean, that's been obvious, but outside of Flau'jae and Michaela Williams, there really hasn't been anybody during the Kim Mulkey era that have been homegrown, home-cooked type players. I mean, a lot of it has been from outside of the program. But we're not here to talk women's basketball. I mean, women's basketball season's over. We're here to talk football. Last week, it was a very slow week for LSU football as they had an off week. Brian Kelly gave them the off week because last week was spring break for LSU. And, he wanted his players to, enjoy themselves for spring break. And then Monday they didn't have practice because it's the first day after spring break. So a lot of the players, there wasn't really anything going on in football. However, this Saturday we will have the spring game, Zach, and scrimmage. It's really just scrimmage. They're calling it the L Club scrimmage. Scrimmage, and we don't even know. I mean, the spring game really has been a glorified scrimmage the past 2 years. Now they're just saying, yeah, it's a scrimmage. I mean. But it's gonna be a very exciting event, Zach, just because it's gonna be a lot of fan interaction at Tiger Stadium. Of course, fans will get a chance to come on the field and get the players to sign the autographs. Of course, you get to take a picture of PK. Something that we haven't seen LSU do in the past, really, to be this interactive, and I think is a good thing, just given the amount of expectations that are on this team going the fall, considering what they brought into the transfer portal, and just year two, Garrett Nussmeier, and all these different things, Zach. But your overall thoughts about what to expect this weekend. What you excited to see this Saturday at Tiger Stadium? Really, just what do you expect, man? I mean, there's a lot of things we all want to happen, but will it happen?
Yeah, I mean, not to be like a contrarian, but it almost feels like if nothing happens, that's a good thing, right? No news is good news this time of year for college football. Just let the guys get out, get some cardio in, I guess. Spring games, not just at LSU, they just don't really mean anything anymore. I mean, I remember being in Tiger Band the spring game when Zach Mettenberger took over the starting job from Jordan Jefferson and Jarrett Lee, and that was a really crowded place, Tiger Stadium that Saturday. and the first deep hole he uncorked. Everybody, I remember just kind of all did the collective, and then it was like, wait, what are we doing right now? This is a practice. I mean, I guess it'll be good to see for the common person, people not in the media, to see like the transfers, the Nick Anderson if he's healthy, the Barry and Brown, maybe see Nussmeier. Maybe we could do the old NFL QB skills challenge where Nussmeier can throw the ball and see how far he can go in, and Van Buren and Colin Hurley if he's able to participate in AJ Swan. Maybe we could do that. But I don't know, man. I'd be lying to you if I said, "Oh, here's what I'm looking forward to with the glorified practice." It just doesn't really mean anything to me at least. So maybe I'm in the wrong, maybe I'm in the minority, but I don't know. I can't say that I'm fired up for the spring game. Not the way that it was. If we could start doing the thing that Dion had suggested at Colorado and like actually scrimmage somebody, that would get me excited. And I know the NCAA shot down the whole idea of Syracuse and Colorado getting together, but like, why not just give us that? Like, I don't want whatever this is masquerading as nowadays. I'm not going to watch the USFL or the UFL. If I want a spring football fix, give me something that looks like college football, not guys running drills. Basically, I don't want that, but that's just me.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I don't blame you, Zach. I mean, I think we kind of wish, what spring games used to be, where there were actual kind of like games, you could say, where, of course, you maybe had ones versus twos, or you had a mixture, you had a draft or whatever, and whatever player got the draft, this player and whatnot, or the coaches put together the teams. But coaches don't want their kids to get hurt. That's why they're not more of a glorified scrimmage than they ever were before, right? There's no need to go 110% during the spring when the first game's in August, right? You're in April. There's no need to go all out and then one of your star players gets injured in the spring game. Like you said, the last part, I do think that college football needs to go to something like that, where maybe let's say you have LSU and Tulane play a game, let's just say in the Superdome. You know what I'm saying? Like just like, or where, both teams can get together and, see where they're at physically. You get this, becomes a community event. There's a lot of things you could do. I do like the fact that Dion and Fran Brown of Syracuse put together at the end for it to only get shot down by the NCAA. But because they went ahead and tried to do that, I think it will allow. I think some other coaches around the country will start looking at, that doesn't sound like a bad idea, because the main complaint about LSU fans, really the last 4 years, has been LSU playing a very hard opponent the first week of the season. Now, that complaint, to me, I don't really agree with that take, because we've always scheduled those games. The only difference is that we're losing now compared to we were in the early 2010s and late 2000s when Les Miles would just give the ball to Leonard Fournette 40 times a game doing the toss side play. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I just feel like that's one. I think when you bring that factor in, let's say LSU gets to the scrimmage against Houston or Texas Tech for a spring game. Or maybe like half I don't know how you would do it. I think that will let you know where this team's truly at. Because when one team scrimmages against each other, let's say the one scrimmage against the twos, or they all know each other, they all know their weaknesses. So it's not really like a it's not really like anything. I mean, I think you can learn maybe a few things. Maybe you can see where who's better than the other guy on that team. You get to see maybe this guy is definitely a starter, while this battle is definitely still neck and neck. I think that's what the spring games are meant for. But you're not really going to learn anything about this team until the first game of the season next year against Clemson. This year against Clemson. That's where you really get to see where this team is at. Have they really taken the next step into becoming an elite program? Because Clemson will be a top 10 team. Like, that's a given. And if you don't win that game, I know right now the schedule doesn't look that hard, but it's always hard to win games, especially in the SEC. And we learned that last year at Alabama. I know they lost against Tennessee and they lost against Tennessee and they lost against somebody else. It was who they
Oklahoma.
that was besides Oklahoma. I was going to bring up Oklahoma, but
Vanderbilt,
yeah, like Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, like they lost against both, and that was the first time Vanderbilt even beating a number one team in this entire school history, and that program's been around forever. So it's always hard to win games in the SEC. So if you lose against Clemson, like it's not guaranteed that you're going to win out and make the playoff. I think that has to be said. But kind of going back to the spring game. I just think that maybe scrimmaging a team like Houston or a team like Texas Tech or Southern Miss or even Tulane will let you know where this team is kind of at and what you need to work on until, let's say, you play a team like Clemson. But
why couldn't they do like what the NFL is starting to do and start doing like those joint scrimmages the way training camp is starting to go?
That's what Syracuse and Colorado are proposing. That's exactly what they're proposing. Exactly.
It doesn't have to build to an actual game, but why not bring insert school here for a weekend and just scrimmage it like practice? I don't know, but yeah. I think there's a solution. I think they can figure it out, especially if I think there's going to be a breakaway with football between the haves and the have-nots. If that happens, I think you could absolutely arrange some type of NFL type of scrimmage in March or April or whenever. I mean, you're already the NFL's developmental league as is already, so why not just take that next step into being that?
Yeah, definitely. And there's some I think that's exactly what's like. College football has always been a professional sport. Like I always say this, like for people to say, well, it's an amateur sport, blah blah blah. It's like they were paying players under the table forever. The NCAA was always making billions of dollars for a good little while. It's always been a professional sport. I don't know why people are complaining about what it used to be, when what it used to be was all the money that's going to players now. That's what was happening back then, except it was going under the table and it was considered against the law. Oh, again, not against the law, against the rules. However, the NCAA judged teams differently depending on who they were, which is why some teams like Alabama and Texas and different programs like that usually got away with it. While if let's just say you were Tulane or your SMU, that was a huge no-no, which is why the Supreme Court struck down, hey, you got to allow the players to make money off the name, image, and likeness. Because there was not only was it fair to the players, because they're the reasons why you made billions upon billions of dollars, but then also you treat schools differently from one another, depending on what their status is in terms of college sports. But that's here and there. Zach, I want to go over these three things real quick. And these are three things that I really want to see in the spring game, which is I want to see the running game be utilized. Let's see what this running game, we're talking about the offensive line and the running backs, go up, how they go up against this front seven. That's supposed to be one of the more improved units across college football. Last year, the front seven I thought was really good. I know they struggled against, let's say the hypothetical running quarterback, but overall it was a much better front seven. And that wasn't really a talented front seven. We lost Jacoby Guillory at the beginning of the year, so you're playing a lot of you had a defensive line that really didn't have a lot of depth, but a lot of times you had to have these younger guys step up. But now all those younger guys that played last year are back. Your edge rushers are amazing. Of course, your linebacker core is really good. Blake Baker has always done a great job with the players he has coached, not only at LSU, but at Missouri and Miami and where other places he's been at. And I also want to see how the offensive line – I want to see the offensive line. Like, the big issue with the offensive line last year was run blocking. And that was with Will Campbell and Emory Jones. They're excellent pass blockers. They're one of the best pass blocking units in the country, and that's not even close. However, they struggled in the run game. I really want to see this young offensive line step up and grab the bull by its horns and start pushing the defensive line back. You have to see that. And also, I want to see Harlan Barry get some reps too. Because Caleb Jackson really struggled last year. And so, yeah, of course, you want to see Caleb Jackson improve and hopefully bounce back from the tough year he had last year. But I really want to see Harlan Barry get some reps, see what he can do, because we need somebody else to contribute other than Kane Durham, right? You can't just have one running back. You have to have multiple. And LSU's won games when you had multiple running backs. The second thing I want to see is the safeties. I want to see the safeties play well. They've often been dubbed the weakest link on this defense. Kind of similar to what happened last year with the defensive line. The defensive line was deemed the weakest link on this LSU team, let alone the defense. And they ended up being one of the biggest reasons why LSU was able to beat 9-4 last year, right? I mean, it's true. They just lacked the depth. They just lacked the depth. That was their only issue. But also, a lot of these underclassmen that are safe, all of the underclassmen safeties have really stepped up over the spring. Joel Rogers, Javian Toviano, Deshaun Spears, all these different guys have done well. Also want to see what Marcus Cooley's all about. Of course, Jardine Gilbert's going to be out for the spring. He won't be back to the fall. But you really want to see the safeties go out and play some football and be successful at it, right? Like, I think the safety position has been the most underwhelming position in LSU's team the last who knows how long. And I think LSU fans are really excited to see someone not named Sage Ryan and Major Burns at safety. I think that they're waiting to see some new faces, which is something that LSU desperately needed, because the only reason why Sage Ryan and Major Spears are still starting is because they really had nobody else. Yeah. And then also the third thing I want to see is the wide receivers versus the DBs. The wide receivers, this receiving core is reloaded. Barry and Brown. I know Nick Anderson really hasn't participated much because I think they're trying to take their time with him, because remember he tore his ACL last year. So he's maybe, sometimes your rehab looks different from others, right? So they're trying to take the time with him. But Xavier Thomas has looked awesome. Chris Helton has looked extremely healthy all throughout the spring. Aaron Anderson, the leading receiver from last year's team. And then, of course, Kyle Parker is 100% healthy as well. Destin Hill has been balling out since transfer from Florida State. You really want to see this receiver. I think this receiving core won't miss a beat, and actually, I think it may get better. And also, you add in the fact Trey Green and Bauer Sharp. You want to add them in the receiving core as well. However, the DBs, the quarterback room, as we mentioned the show before, has been awesome. DJ Pickett has showed us why he's the number one. He was the number one cornerback coming out of the class of 2025. Jakeem Jackson has looked great. Asher Stamps has looked great. I mean, the whole quarterback rooms look great. I know the safeties, so very interested to see what the safeties are going to do. But I really want to see the receivers and cornerbacks fight for every single ball. I think that's what I want to see in the spring game. That's really the only things I want to see. We already know what Gary Nussmeier is going to do. So we don't need anything from him. I just want to see the run game be successful. I want to see where the safeties are truly at, and we also want to see the balance between a reloaded receiving core and a very much improved defensive backfield.
Watch this right quick. Hey, wait, Grant, did you say defensive backs?
Yeah.
Well, that reminds me. Right down the road from Catholic High School, we didn't talk about this last week. Defensive back Blaine Bradford actually did not commit to LSU as many expected, committed to Ohio State. The 5-star, I've seen number 1 safety in America, number 2 safety in America, depending on what outlet you subscribe to at Catholic High in Baton Rouge. Picked Ohio State over LSU. Do we make anything of this? Do we think this holds? Because personally, candidly, I don't. I think if LSU wants a Baton Rouge kid, they get him, especially at a position of need. But what do you think, Grant?
Look, it's not the most ideal thing in the world, right? Of course, he is a Baton Rouge native. I've actually met him. Really nice kid. I cover a lot of high school football as well, and recruiting, of course. And so I've gotten a chance to really know him. He's been a starter at Catholic since his freshman year, which is really hard to do considering the fact that Catholic along with Carr have been the two best teams in St. Louis every year. They are loaded every single year. And so if you get to start as a freshman or sophomore at either Catholic or Carr, you're an awesome player, right? You're definitely going to get D1 offers. Blaine Bradford was a starter for Catholic since his freshman year. He balled out against Zachary. I'm like, who is that kid? I'm like, he looks great out there. He's a decent kid. He's like, oh yeah, he's only a freshman. I'm like, how is he a freshman, right? And the craziest thing is too, his brother. Also, what makes it not as a deal is that his brother will be joining the football team next fall. He was a commit in the class of 2025, and he's also a very underrated player as well. I think he's going to be one of the biggest gems of that class if things work out. He locked down all of Carr's receivers, and all three of the receivers went D1, including Teron Francis, a 4-star receiver who is on LSU's roster as we speak. And he locked them down. He also went one-on-one with Trey Green and the Catholic Zachary game a couple years ago. That just shows you what type of player Jacob is as well. So, and that's what made it shocking that he went to Ohio State, right? Look, Ohio State is a great program. Ohio State, if there's one program where if you had to commit to a program other than LSU, Ohio State is probably the best choice because he's not in the SEC, and also not a place where, he's going to get developed. Ohio State has developed DB after DB. I mean, Ohio State is one of the biggest factories, pro football factories in the country. It's not even close, right? I mean, they're definitely top 5. So it's not, and they're not defending that championship. So it's not hard for me to fathom that he would commit to Ohio State. But I don't think it's a big deal as well. I really don't think it's a big deal. As you just said, there's still plenty of time until December. And even if this commitment still holds and he signs with Ohio State, I mean, you still have Aiden Hall, who is the number 2, who's a top 5 safety as well. He's Carr, and LSU's had a lot of success bringing guys from Carr, right, under Brian Kelly, which is hard to do. A lot of times Carr guys don't really work out, but under Brian Kelly, they have. And I just think that this is not a big deal because you got Aiden Hall, Louisiana has full of DBs. And you're always going to miss out on one, right? And now Louisiana, you're going to miss out on at least 1 or 2 kids. It's going to happen. And this is one of those things. And the good thing is he's committed to Ohio State. It's not like he committed to Alabama or Texas or another school in the SEC. Yeah, it sucks that you weren't able to land the hometown kid. But on the bright side, you still have plenty of time to the early signing day. And on top of that, it's not like you're in a state that is depleted of skill talent, which is receivers, DBs, you name it. So I don't think it's a big deal. But as long as this does become a recurrent thing, right? That's when it becomes frustrating. It's not just one player. It's how does the rest of the state think of LSU at the moment? And which is also why it's very important that LSU wins against Clemson that very first week of the year.
Yeah. And ironically, or maybe fittingly is the better word, but Blaine's brother, Jacob, as you mentioned earlier, was a Houston commit at one point in time. So this isn't super surprising that a Bradford brother committed elsewhere, and then LSU just kept digging, and eventually they flipped him. So as long as Corey Raymond is still on staff, and I mean, it's easy to commit to Ohio State right now in April, but come December, when my choice is either going all the way to the other side of the country to play my college football or going 10 minutes down the road and still being close to home and playing my college football, I think eventually this will win out and LSU will win out. And like you said, Aiden Hall is by no means a consolation prize. He is just as good as Blaine Bradford. And the funny thing too about like you said about keeping, you're never going to get everybody. It is the Baton Rouge kids that seem to always like sting the most because of just proximity. And I remember the thing that kind of undid Les Miles, or one of the many things that undid Les Miles, was being able to keep especially Alabama out of Baton Rouge, specifically with U High. LSU's had better luck with Catholic High, the other major Baton Rouge school. But for those that don't know, U High, University High, is LSU's lab school. And God, there was just this stretch which just seemed like year after year, U High had a 5-star prospect, Dylan Moses, Christian Harris, and every year, oh, cool, he's going to Alabama. This kid is literally prepping on your campus, and Alabama got him. Saban got him. So, like you'd said, if this Bradford thing does stick, which you don't, at least he's going to go outside the conference, and it's not killing you for 3 or 4 years. Maybe you run into him in a playoff situation, and if so, may the best man win. But for now, it's okay. And talk to me in December. Talk to me in November. He also should be noted, Bradford committed to Ohio State after taking an unofficial visit to Ohio State. So could that be just as small as a 17, 18-year-old kid living up at Ohio State for a weekend and said, you know what, this is what I want to do? Yep, probably. What happens when he takes his official to LSU and the full court press really starts to kick in? We'll see. And again, it sounds like you and I are both this is probably going to flip for LSU. Maybe not sooner than later, but definitely it seems like a win, not if scenario.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. And look, I'm going to actually share this real quick with you guys to kind of give you an idea where LSU stands in the state of Louisiana. Just give me 1 second. But it's not like it's saying like most of the state in terms of the top prospects in the state of Louisiana. It's not a shocker that LSU signed a lot of them, right? Just look at the list. Richard Anderson, the number one defensive line, arguably the number one defensive lineman in the country, committed to LSU. Lamar Brown, right now his top school is LSU. Originally, he really didn't have the best relationship with LSU, and a lot of that was because there's some of the things that happened. I mean, of course, LSU was, recruiting out because he's kind of like that flex guy where he could possibly be a recruiter's offensive lineman and a defensive lineman. So there was kind of some confusion there or whatever. But LSU's now his top school after he visited them at junior day. Of course, we mentioned Blaine Bradford. He is coming to Ohio State. But then Aiden Hall, exactly, you can see that pretty good, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to make it zoom in a little closer to make sure you guys can see this. But Aiden Hall, as we said, the number 5 safety in this country. Of course, this is on through rankings, so a lot of things can be different. But he's the number 4 guy in the committed to LSU. Jabari Mack committed to LSU. Bryson Martinez from Eastern Session committed to LSU. Kenny Darby, another receiver, committed to LSU. Ja'Kai Anderson, another receiver, committed to LSU. Like, you have 3 receivers out of the state of Louisiana that are committed to LSU. Those are the guys you want to keep. Hayward Howard, right now he's the number 9 prospect. He does not have an offer from LSU, but that's going to come very soon. And I just found out that JaMychal Garrett transferred the car. I'm not sure how – that's why I was on my phone. So it's like, wait, he goes to Gulf Shores High School in Alabama. Because I actually interviewed him for one of my recruiting podcasts I did a little while back. And then he transferred – I remember he transferred to Auburn. But apparently, right now he's at Carr. So I'm wondering how much LSU has to do with him landing that car. So something's going on here. I don't know. I got to dig into that. But something is going on here. But as you mentioned, yeah, Leon Noel. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think he has an offer from LSU yet, but he will be. Like, all these guys who either got an offer from LSU, like Zarian Ellis got an offer from LSU the other day. He's rising up the recruiting rankings really fast. He was unranked a couple months ago. But all these guys were on this list right here. Most of these guys on this list have either gotten an offer from LSU or getting ready to get an offer from LSU. And as we mentioned before, we haven't mentioned this on the show before, but the two most important classes Brian Kelly has hit is the class of 2026 and the class of 2027. Class of 26, you go to the list, you start to see why, right? And then, of course, what's his name? the guy who went to St. Aug, I forgot his name. I know I'm tripping right now.
Jakeem Stewart.
Yeah, Jakeem Stewart. There we go. Jakeem Stewart. I don't know why that blanked out on me, but he was supposed to be part of this class of 2026, but he's not anymore because he reclassified 2025 and committed to USC. We all know. And good luck to him because I know just from my time covering high school football down here in New Orleans. But next year, to class 27, let me actually pull this up for you guys right here. Is also important, if not even more important. Because in the class of 2027, Zyron Forstall. He's a dog. Jack, I'm telling you right now, he's a dog. He got a lot of big time offers this year, and he will probably be the number one prospect in the country. He is a dog as a defensive end at Jesuit. Right now, he's leaning towards LSU. Albert Simeon, the number 11 prospect in the country. Easton Royal, another big time player. He's awesome. Easton Royal is an awesome player. Right now in the top 20 to 25, Ahmad Houston, 46. And Elijah Haven right now, I don't know why I'm not sure if they updated these pretty recently. I know it's on 3, so take this with a grain of salt because they still have to edit some of the things because some of these are carried over from the class of 2027. But this guy's the number one player in the country according to 24/7, and the number 2 player in the country according to Rivals. And both those sides have him as the number 1 quarterback in the country. So I can and you have 3 quarterbacks out of the state of Louisiana, kind of similar to 2023. So this class is extremely important for LSU as well. I know I'm showing the on 3. Let me show you the 24/7 one as well for the state of Louisiana. As pull this up. I want Louisiana. Oh, hold on. Oh boy. Give me 1 second, guys.
While Grant does that, basically it sounds like the point that we're making here as usually when it comes to a kid in Louisiana, if LSU wants them, LSU's probably going to get them. That was on the 26 class on 3 rankings, 8 of the top 9 are either committed to LSU or training to commit to LSU. And the one exception is Blaine Bradford, and Grant and I both expect that to flip. So that's 9 of the top 9. With 27, I mean, again, it's a whiles away, but who LSU wants, they're probably going to get. That's just kind of how this state works. That's the advantage that Louisiana has, or LSU has in Louisiana. It's a Power 5 school with no other Power 5 competition to compete with. And it's a talent-rich state. It's maybe the most talent-rich state in the country. And again, if LSU wants you, LSU's probably going to get you, especially nowadays with NIL and the revenue sharing on the way. It doesn't look like LSU's going to get Bryce Underwood again, not unless they can help that, which also kind of gives me more reason to believe that this Bradford thing will flip the other way because LSU had Underwood as dead set committed as you could have possibly hoped for, and then Michigan dropped the bag. And it just seems like, with Underwood going to school 30 minutes away from home, it's going to flip back, and the same logic is going to apply for Blaine Bradford. And it's even closer than 30 minutes away from school.
It's not even 30 minutes. We're talking about 5 to 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
It's really not that far away from LSU's campus. But there's nothing really on 24/7 because, like I said, a lot of people are still updating their rankings. But I just show you the list of on 3. That's the amount of talent that's in the state right now, right? Yeah. And their rankings are only going to rise. Like, for example, Elijah Haven will still raise the number 5 player in the state of Louisiana. He will be the number 1 player in the state of Louisiana just because 24/7 and Rivals, both of them has the number 1 player in the country, right? Yeah. So, on 3 is going to update it, and he's going to be number 1, and then everybody else is going to have their rankings changed and everything. Like I always showed you some examples of guys in class of 2026 where they weren't even ranked before the spring. Weren't even ranked. Zyron Forstall was okay. I know he's only like a sophomore going into his junior year, but he got a bunch of offers in like a month span. along with this offer from LSU. So, like I said, like a lot of these things can happen extremely fast. You could go from unranked to a 4-star. Probably the best example on the LSU's team is Dominique McKinley. Dominique McKinley was a 3-star recruit after his junior year. All of a sudden, he had a huge growth spurt. He got bigger. He went to these camps, and bang, he's the number 1 player in the state of Louisiana. Right. So the great thing about LSU is that all of his coaching staff either has ties to Louisiana, is from Louisiana, has coached at LSU previously, or you name it. Anything that has involved in the state of Louisiana, there's ties. And that's what these coaches at LSU have. And they know who the coaches are. And they know who's going to be good before anyone else knows they're going to be good. So you're always going to be at an advantage compared to other teams trying to come to St. Louisiana and pluck the talent away because you already know these kids. So, and I think that's the good thing about Brian Kelly having the staff he has right now. It's very important to lock up the boot. You have to. Nick Saban did it. Les Miles did a pretty good job of it. Coach O, for the most part, did a great job of it. But Brian Kelly wants to make sure it's on lockdown. That it's sealed, like it's sealed tight. It's locked up in a lockbox. It's tied up. Whatever you want to describe it, he's going to make sure it's locked down. I know Blake Bradford left Ohio State. You can't keep everyone from leaving the state of Louisiana. It happens. You're going to eventually have somebody who wants to leave the state of Louisiana because they want to explore different parts of the country. They lived here their entire life and want to explore something different. It happens, right? But the good thing is Brian Kelly has staff in place to make sure that this doesn't become an epidemic, right? You don't want it to have too many guys leave the state. So I think yes, Blake Bradford coming to Ohio State is not ideal, of course, because of where he's from. And of course, his brother is going to be on the roster next fall, upcoming fall. But it's also not the end of the world because still a lot of time before pen is signed to paper. LSU fans, we all know this is LSU fans because we literally just saw it happen with Bryce Underwood. And he is literally maybe 30 minutes to an hour away from Ann Arbor. So, yeah, but with that being said, let's talk about baseball. They had a dominant week this week, 4-0, and they swept Oklahoma, who was a top 10 team. So
5 pitchers needed.
Yeah.
I counted on one hand. Cade Anderson, Anthony Ianson, Chase Shores, Zach Cowan, Kason Evans. 3 wins. There you go.
There's a lot of pitchers that pitched on Tuesday, and that's probably because there's a blowout, and I think Jay wanted to see who he had. Just, hey, let's get some experience in you pitching in and you pitching in and you pitching in. But then the weekend happened, and of course, like Zach said, only 5 pitchers. But let's start off with the Louisiana Tech game. LSU won their midweek game because Louisiana Tech 12-3. Ethan Fry, he went 3 for 4 with a double, a home run, and 4 RBIs. And there wasn't really a whole lot that happened in that game. But on Louisiana Tech side, 2 former Tigers went yard. Zeb Ruddell from Neville High School in Monroe. He came back to Baton Rouge and smacked a homer. And Brody Drost. That's not a name we haven't heard in a little while. He was on the team in 2021 with Dylan Cruz his freshman year, and Trey Morgan's and Jordan Thompson's freshman year. And he came back to LSU and also went yard, but their team lost 12-3 as LSU and LSU continued. Like really, actually, LSU's won 7 games in a row. No, 8 games in a row because you got to count the midweek games, and then they also swept Mississippi State last week. But going into this last weekend, Oklahoma, they swept Oklahoma. It was a second consecutive series sweep, and they've really rebounded nicely after that. That tough series loss against Texas. Let's start with the first game. Cade Anderson pitched a complete game with 14 Ks. He threw over 130 pitches. You really don't see that anymore, Zach. You just don't. Even in Major League Baseball, you don't see guys pitch a complete game, throw 14 strikeouts, and pitch over 130 pitches.
He went the distance. He was Rocky that night. He just kept coming out. Yeah, it was funny because Twitter was giving him like a standing ovation after the 7th inning, and then after the 8th inning, and I was like, wait, he's doing it. He's going to go for it, and it just felt like they told him, Jay Johnson and Nate Yeskie probably said, okay, kid, we're going to let you do this. We're going to let you go for this. But the next time you let somebody on, we're going to hook you. And he said, okay, watch this. 12 up, 12 down. Let's go home. So shout out to Kate Anderson. I'm not sure, not to sound like Bill Simmons, I'm not sure how high up on the Pantheon this performance will be remembered in, because it is a regular season game. You know, legends are made in May and June, not what was that, April 4th, April 2nd, like, especially if this team doesn't really amount to anything in the postseason. But in the here and the now, it's maybe the best pitching performance since Paul Skeens or Ty Floyd. Somehow Kate Anderson only got co-SEC pitcher of the week honors. Like, who else pitched better than, like, why can't he get that by himself?
Yeah, actually,
what is this
right
participation trophy era we're living in, Grant? What happened to this?
I don't know, man. Like, I mean, that's what I'm actually looking up right now to see who also won it. Because that is, I mean, that's kind of, I wouldn't say it's bogus, but it's hard to top, you know, what he did. 14 strikeouts, and it was a shutout too.
Yeah,
and it was a shutout too.
Yep.
So, I mean, like, you don't really see that in the sport of baseball, regardless of level. You just don't.
And it just, this is stating the obvious, but Anderson going the distance, it changed the entire calculus of the whole series. By not having to use Cohen or Evans. You could, you know, looking back, you could have said, okay, we can use both for game 2 to win the series. It didn't even play like that. You only had to use one for each, and it led to this sweep. And no, LSU is not going to be able to just do the whole let's do 5 pitchers thing again. Like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But it gives you definitely belief that we've got a clear-cut top 5. Gavin Guidry could be on his way back, should be on his way back. Jay Johnson was saying maybe Auburn is the weekend he comes back. So that's 6. And you just need 2 more pitchers, 1 more maybe. So you've got the uber talented William Schmidt. You've got Newt is starting to throw a little bit more strikes. So there's reasons for optimism, and I don't want them playing. I don't think they're playing their best ball yet, and I don't want them playing their best ball yet. I don't want them to peak too soon, because I think that kind of undid the 2013 team, the 2015 LSU team. Maybe they were playing a little too perfectly in April, and I'm not saying they ran out of gas, but that level of play is very hard to maintain for what's the day, April 7th. Like, that's not going to last for another 2.5 months. So honestly, I would be okay. I don't want to say like I'm okay with them losing series, but with the level of competition they've got upcoming, and because you're 10-2, you've got such a good cushion. You only need to play maybe 500 ball to have a national seed locked up. So you can kind of sort of tinker and figure things out between now and Hoover starting, and then try and play your best ball in May.
Yeah, I mean, well, look, and that's the thing too, is that you know, you don't want this team to peak early, but you know, just let them peak the whole entire season. If they play like this the whole entire year, then there's no worry. I mean, like, of course, I think that's what we kind of worried about in 2023 with the team, because remember they had that the month of like, it was like late May, April, early part of May, where they really struggled. I mean, of course,
back series.
Yeah, they blew like a 13-3 lead against Mississippi State. Like,
at home, it was awful. Yeah,
crazy. And like, it just seemed like, oh well, maybe this team, you know, they win with Paul Skeens, but what, they look a completely different team without Paul Skeens. You heard that chatter, and then of course they won the national championship. You know,
without using Paul Skeens.
Without, yeah, exactly. Well, they used Paul Skeens the first game, and then they used him on they used him in the Wake Forest game, which was probably one of the greatest pitching duels of all time in college baseball. Period, with Rhett Lauder and Paul Skeens. That was awesome to watch. That was really awesome. But anyway, I'm glad you brought up. What was it before you said the peak? It was
the cushion.
What was up?
The cushion they've got at 10-2.
No, it was before that. You meant he put complete it changed how you said his complete game, his the whole series. That happened very similarly in the regional at Baton Rouge in 2023, where Jay Johnson decided to pitch Paul Skeens.
Yeah,
and a
really
lot
of
people are like, "Why would you do that?" and blah blah blah. And then also, he pitched a complete game.
Yeah,
it was the only time all year Paul Skeens pitched a complete game. But because he did that, LSU was allowed to use the relievers in full force. And I even said that when it happened. Matt Moscon was going off on Twitter about that. The guys at D1 Baseball wondering why he was doing that. And everybody was kind of going off him.
I was one of them.
Yeah, you were one of them. And I remember texting you. I was like, look, I actually think this is a genius. Because I think he's going to let Paul pitch the whole entire game. I really did. I think that I wish it maybe wasn't the plan for him to pitch the entire game, but he was going to go at least 7 innings. They were going to let him go 7 innings, like at least. They were trying to limit the use of the relievers as much as possible, and that showed up in that first game against Oklahoma. And also, he was on fire. Like, why not? Like, shoot, we don't have to use any of our relievers. We'll take it.
Yeah, he wasn't laboring. He wasn't really losing velocity. More importantly, he wasn't missing his spots. So there was no need to take him out. He was in his zone. And obviously they're not going to do this each and every weekend between now and whenever the season ends. But for that one night, Anderson had it going. So ride it.
Yeah, and also, of course, he made a lot of money too. Because remember, he's a draft eligible sophomore, and I think a lot of people have to think about that because stuff like this is what gets you money.
Yeah,
especially gets you drafted at very high.
He outdueled future first-round pick Kyson Witherspoon that night.
Yeah, that says a lot. But anyway, the other co-pitcher of the week was Liam Doyle, who he had 8 strikeouts and 2 walks over 6 shutout innings in a 10-0 7-inning run roll victory over Texas A&M in Friday's series opener. It was a no-hitter, but it was a combined no-hitter, and ironically, they ended up losing that series too, which is kind of the funniest thing. The way that series started, and how that series ended. It's kind of funny. But going on to game 2, let's talk about game 2 as well. Anthony Ianson followed that up with an 8 strikeout performance. He pitched 5.2 innings. He also allowed just 3 hits and 2 runs. None of those runs were earned, but they weren't earned runs, so they won't account against his ERA, and he had 4 walks. He improves to 5-0 on the year. Kason Evans picked up his 6th save of the year. He only allowed 2 hits and no runs, along with 5 strikeouts. Chris Stanfield 4 for 5 with 2 doubles and 4 RBIs, and Josh Pearson blasted 2 home runs, and Hunter Dickinson also blasted a solo dinger as well. In game 3, Derek Curiel, the freshman sensation, has been awesome all year for the Tigers. He's either been the number 1 or number 2 batter statistically in terms of his batting average and all that good stuff.
Yeah. The next time Curiel does not reach base will be the first time he doesn't reach base in a college baseball uniform, which is absurd at this point. It's 33 games now at this point.
Yes. Yeah. See, I mean, it's insane. Like, he was supposed to be he skipped the MLB draft. He could have gone he could have gone to the pros, but he decided not to come. Similar to William Smith, decided to stay at home. I would not stay home, but go to college. And a lot of that is because of NAL.
Yep.
So if you want to talk about some of the good aspects of NAL, that's one of them. 2 of those runs came on off of an errant throw, and then the other run came off of an RBI base hit. Chase Shores picked up the win after recording 4 strikeouts with 4 walks and a run allowed, which was unearned. And he pitched through 5 innings. And Zach Cohen got his 4th save of the season, hurling 4 strikeouts in 4 innings. And Zach, and there's something I wanted to bring up. I didn't bring this up last week, but I think after seeing this performance, and of course it's still a long season to go, and I don't want to put this on him, but I'm really starting to think that this pitching staff is better than 2023's. Not because of the talent, right? Because, I mean, who's more talented than Paul Skeens? I mean, yeah. But you also got to think about this. Like, and what I mean by this is because 2023's pitching staff never really lived up to its hype, and a lot of that was because of the injuries, right? You lost Grant Taylor was supposed to be your day 3 guy. Mm-hmm. And Grant Taylor pitched better than Paul Skeens during the fall camp and everything like that. I mean, higher velocity, striking people out, you name it. And he got injured before the season. Then you lose Chase Shores for the year with the UCL, which knocked him out next season as well. He was starting to find his groove. And then Garrett Edwards, who really looked like he was the best reliever in the SEC. And it wasn't even close. He tears his UCL against South Carolina. And so you really didn't get a chance to see how great this pitching staff was really until the NCAA tournament, because we're all both there in Omaha, where Nate Ackenhausen looked awesome. Gavin Guidry was cursing batters out after he struck him out. Riley Cooper was the most outstanding player in the College World Series. I mean, Ty Floyd became a beast in Omaha. I mean, like 15 strikeouts.
17. You shortchanged him. 17.
I think it was broke the record for most strikeouts in the championship series or whatever. That's what that pitching staff was supposed to look like if it weren't for the injuries. Because when the injuries happen, guys roles change. You got to find the next guy. And that's the thing about injuries. You just got to find your role. But this group really hasn't experienced any injuries. The only injury you've kind of experienced is Gavin Guidry, but it looks like he'll be back very soon. Of course, Jay's really mum on players' injuries. He's always been, and he always will be. I don't blame him for him. But the fact that he mentioned, it kind of gave a timestamp of when Gavin Guidry is supposed to be back is promising, because that's really the only thing he's going to be willing to give you. So I really think this pitching staff has a chance to be better than 2023, because all the depth of the staff has remained intact. There hardly has been any major injuries, and really a lot of the staff is younger guys. So we're still waiting on when it's going to start clicking. Kason Evans, I believe it's a freshman.
Kason Evans is a freshman. Schmidt's a freshman. Yeah.
I also want to mention this too. Zach Cohen will be a starter in any other program around the country. He was literally their ace. He was literally the ace at Wofford last year. Now he's coming out of the bullpen. Yeah. Having that luxury is insane.
Yeah. Now he's your Griffin Herring. That's just LSU as a program is here, and everyone else is just kind of aside from Tennessee and Arkansas, everybody else is just below them as just a program sustainability. I think I see the vision of what you predicting about possibly being a better staff than the 23 staff. Maybe not as high of a ceiling because the Skeens is just such a boost, but I think probably ends up being a little more, like you said, it's a deeper group. And who knows, maybe you do get some bullpen surprises, because that Nate Ackenhausen game against Tennessee the second time around, that came out of nowhere. Griffin Herring as a freshman coming on in the second inning of the second Wake Forest game to save your season. That came out of nowhere. Once you get Gavin Guidry back, and it seems like a win, not an if thing now. Well, fingers crossed at least. he can be your setup guy and give the ball to a Case and Evans, and he can slam the door shut.
Yeah, and you're really starting to get to the meat of the schedule. Of course, Auburn. You have a road trip in Auburn, the number 9 team in the country. They're a top 10 team in the country. Alabama is a top 15, top 20 team in the country. I'm going to look this up too to double check to make sure I'm saying this thing right. I mean, I know because LSU goes off a different ranking. I think they go off the Baseball America ranking, but a lot of people go off I know a lot of people use D1 baseball.
They also won't put the rankings on the schedule until like the week of the series. So whatever Alabama is, we still won't know until next week.
Yeah.
So as far as LSU schedule is concerned.
Yeah. So as it stands, Auburn's number 11. The next team on that schedule, let me. Where did I have it? Where did I have it? Right. Usually it would show you. Oh, here we go. Right here. So after Auburn, you got Alabama, who's right now the number 12 team in the country. Tennessee, they were just the number 1 team in the country. They're now number 5, because of course they lost in their series against A&M, and A&M's not. They're one of the worst teams in the SEC right now. However, they could pick up steam after that winning the series win against Tennessee.
That's it. Yeah, they might be the LSU of this season. You know,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. They never kind of A&M. A&M's always been a great program. They're gonna get out of the rut eventually. I mean, it's just how it's gonna be, especially in a conference like the SEC. But yeah, Tennessee. That will be a fantastic series. I actually cannot wait for that one. Along with the Alabama one's gonna be pretty good, but we all know when Tennessee rolls in town that the box is gonna be rocking. Just because not a whole lot of people like Tennessee. That's unfortunate for the Volunteers. I'm not saying that. I'm just hearing what everyone else is saying. But then, of course, you get the road series because A&M. It's always tough to play at College Station. It always is, no matter how good or how bad A&M is. And Arkansas. Arkansas right now is the number 1 team in the country as we speak. And that will be played at the box. Ironically, my birthday weekend. My birthday's on May 10th. So
there you go.
And then, of course, you end the series. You end the regular season with a road trip to South Carolina, who is now being coached by former LSU coaching legend Paul Maneri. So
another. Sorry, I was just going to say another advantage. Like I mentioned earlier, that cushion that you've built yourself at 10-2. You can theoretically go in the in the Tennessee and Arkansas series. You can go 3-3 and still be fine. You know, those aren't going to be. We got to win both these things because that might be too difficult to pull off, even with them being in Baton Rouge. If you just split those 6 games, you should be home free for a national seed.
Yeah, definitely.
And you can just pick up some wins against Carolina and you'll probably win the series at Alabama. Probably not going to sweep Auburn. I'm not expecting that, but you could and probably should beat Auburn 2 out of 3 times at Auburn. Who knows? But, you know, the magic number, some people say it's 20. Some people say it's 18. If you're in that 18 to 20 range of SEC wins, you're a national seed. LSU's got 10, and we're just now into the first week of April. So you're on a great pace right now.
Yeah, definitely on a great pace. But you know also is at a great pace, Zach?
Who's that?
LSU basketball.
Wow.
No, I'm not women's. I want to clarify the men's team. I know the men's team has been kind of the thorn in every LSU sports fans hiney. However, you know, we mentioned Scott Woodward mentioned this near the end of the season when everyone's thinking about what they were going to do with Matt McMahon, whether they were going to fire him or not after a disappointing year. A lot of people thought that this was the year. You're catapulting off of the previous season where you improved. You had a winning record. Yes, you made the NIT. I know that's not the most ideal thing in the world, but you made the NIT after, you know, finishing second to last in the SEC the year before. This season was supposed to be the year where you're supposed to compete for a tournament spot. You know, that's where this kind of where you saw this team at. However, you had one player leave before the year due to personal issues. Jalen Reed getting hurt in the middle of the year. And again, after the season, that was an ideal thing as well. And of course, LSU just stumbled down the road, and they had a very disappointing year with the fifth second last. However, Scott Woodward quoted that they were going to keep Matt McMahon, and what they're going to do to improve the basketball program is to give the basketball team more money to spend on NIL and recruiting and whatnot, which I don't know why they weren't doing that beforehand. Like, and I'm not saying like Matt McMahon is completely off the hook. I'm not, I have some criticism of Matt McMahon, of course, after this past season. But the fact that you had to come out and say, yeah, we had to put more money in NIL, where was that beforehand? Like, Zach, and you know this, right? You went to LSU, you're from Baton Rouge. But LSU's basketball program has always been generally a solid program. They've made it NCAA tournament most years. I mean, Dale Brown had a lot of success there, led the program to 2 Final Fours. And, they were always getting the top players, Shaquille O'Neal, Chris Jackson, you name it. And even in the John Brady years, they had some success, making multiple appearances to the Sweet 16. Of course, made it to the Final Four in 2006, where they upset that great Duke team with J.J. Redick and, those guys. They were a fantastic team that year. LSU beat them to go on the Elite Eight, where they upset Texas in the Elite Eight and then advanced to the Final Four. And then, of course, Will Wade. I know they had some bad years in Johnny Jones and I forgot the other coach's name too.
Trent Jones.
Trent Jones, yeah. Then they hired up, because they remember they had didn't they recruit a player from the band, like a tuba player, because he was
Andrew Del Piero. Yeah, he was like a 7 foot tall tuba player.
Yes. I remember Jordan Collas telling that story on his podcast. But yeah, you went through recruiting a tuba player out of the band to become your center to Will Wade, who was a fantastic recruiter, always gave players strong-ass deals, which, by the way, their strong-ass deals got him a lot of trouble, and the NCAA forced LSU to fire him, and LSU really has not recovered since then. Meanwhile, in the whole time, Alabama has invested a lot of money into the program. Alabama did not have the program that LSU had. Mm-hmm. Yet they're a national title contender. They've been the national title contender for the last few seasons. Auburn has been a national title contender the last few years. Auburn's not a better program historically than LSU. Nope. You've seen a lot of Ole Miss. Has put a lot of money into the basketball program, rebuilding the arena, the whole time. Everyone has put money into the basketball program and have rebuilt the facilities to make it look nice, to make sure these players are taken well, the coaches and players are taken well care of. Everyone's in that except for LSU. You know how I know it's bad? Because even Kim Mulkey is scratching and clawing and forcing the administration to pay up to help the women's basketball program. And they get more NIL funding than the men's do.
Yeah.
Because of that, LSU decided to fix everything. And they hired a general manager. We see this a lot around college sports. Of course, Davidson hired Steph Curry to be the general manager. Stanford hired Andrew Luck to be the general manager for football. We've already seen him fire a head coach. LSU brought that type of person in. It's former LSU star Ronald Dupree, who was a star in the early 2000s for LSU. He's returning to his alma mater to become the general manager of LSU. He was in the front office of the Milwaukee Bucks since 2021. He served as the director of global scouting, and he had been a scout with the Bucks since 2017. And before that, he was a assistant coach at the college basketball ranks, serving both the LSU and Nevada. And before that, he was a professional basketball player for a little close to 10 years before going back to LSU to finish his undergraduate credits, where he served as a coach. And then, of course, now he worked in front office. He worked in the front office of the Milwaukee Bucks, the NBA. He has a ring, by the way, his NBA ring. Mm-hmm. So there's that. And now he's the general manager for LSU. And that's also on top of the fact that LSU has been phenomenal getting guys out of the transfer portal. Recently, they got Summit League Player of the Year in Markel Sutton, right, from University of Omaha. averaged 19 points a game, 19 points and 8 rebounds per game last season for the Mavericks. And yeah, like I said, he won the Summit League Player of the Year. They also picked up a transfer from Portland by the name of Max McKinnon, an Australian, 14.5 points per game, 4.8 rebounds, 3.2 assists. You also picked up Michael Nwoko, who was the first player to sign for LSU. He's similar to Markel's son. He's a big man, and he was a starter for Mississippi State last season. And Rashad King. But Rashad King was a first-team all-conference player for Northeastern, a Division I school, and, of course, the Northeast, more specifically right outside Boston, where he averaged 19.4 points per game in league play. So all these guys were starters for their respective teams, and some even earned honors from their conference. And some of these players were even some of the more highly touted transfers to the transfer portal. Will it contribute to LSU winning basketball games next year? Yeah, you would hope so. Of course, LSU, but the good thing is what the positive news about this whole thing. Of course, you're bringing in players and you're bringing in Ronald Dupree to be your general manager. I think people want to see LSU care about its basketball teams. I think that's been that's what we've been asking for from this administration for a very long time. Because if Alabama and Auburn and if Alabama and Auburn can do it, where you can maintain football, basketball, and baseball, certainly LSU could do the same. They can.
Yeah, there's no reason that LSU, who, aside from obviously Kentucky and Florida, might historically be the best program in the SEC. Men's basketball is the only other revenue generating sport in college athletics. Like, it's silly to just neglect it like the way LSU is. So you've got to at least try. And it just feels like they just haven't been trying these past couple of years. And I've been critical of Matt McMahon as well, but with just these rosters he's had to work with, you can't expect a top chef, the best chef in the world, if you don't give him the right ingredients. So like, what if he flops this year with the roster that they're assembling? Okay, now let's have that discussion in earnest. But I don't want to give him a pass, but it's also like, well, okay, you do better. And I don't know how much better he could have done, especially with all this bargain bin shopping they've been doing.
Yeah, and it's ridiculous for LSU to completely ignore basketball because everyone else in the conference is focusing on basketball. The SEC's made it a mission to become more of a basketball league. You literally had 2 teams in the Final Four. Greg Sankey's made that very clear. It's been very clear that this league is becoming more and more of a basketball league. They want to be an all-sports league. And for some reason, LSU just refuses to become more of a basketball school. They refuse to put money in their facilities. They refuse to renovate the PMAC over time. While everyone else is either renovated stadiums or built new state-of-the-art facilities. You don't need you don't need a 13,000 seat stadium. You can build an 8,000, 9,000 seat stadium like Auburn and make it not only a hospital environment for its fans, but also make it hard for opposing players on the court. Because all the way Auburn's arena is built a lot like Duke's, where they want not only is it compact and you have 8,000-9,000, you can spell it the same with 8,000, 9,000 people, but because it's compact, they're on top of you. Like LSU needs to do a better job, not only of creating, not only making, doing everybody else, like makes the committing more and more to the sport of basketball, but also creating a culture. There is no culture around LSU basketball. There's none. They don't appeal to anybody, whether it's the players, whether it's the coaches, or even as fans, especially the fans. Fans complain about the PMAC all the time. It's about damn time I know. It's about damn time. I don't want to explain how bad it is. I actually worked there as a student. It's bad. I can tell you that it's bad. It's horrendous. I'm not going to go into details, but it's bad. It's absolutely horrendous that LSU refuses to invest in its basketball teams, whether it's men's and women's. Yes, they invest in women's basketball. Not really. Not the way they should. Because even Kim Mulkey's scratching and clawing to get what she wants. So, I mean, I'm glad we're seeing the positive news about what's going on in the transfer portal and, bringing in Ronald Dupree as GM. And, I'm glad. I'm super happy. But at least LSU's showing some commitment there. But you have to show a little bit more than that, right? You have to. You have to start investing in these programs. You have to. There's there's no excuse when Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Auburn, and Alabama, 4 schools that don't have the history that you do in terms of basketball, are all better than you and are showing not only its players and coaches that it cares about the sport of basketball, but also showing its fans. And that's something LSU needs to do. Zach, you have anything else to say before we wrap this up?
The SEC has 16 schools. 14 of them got into the NCAA tournament. It is embarrassing that you weren't one of the 14 teams.
Yes. Yeah. I should have mentioned that too. And how many teams made it to the Elite Eight? How many teams made it to the Sweet 16 Elite Eight? Do you remember?
7 Sweet 16s, and then 4 in the Elite Eight because there was a chance at an all SEC Final Four. Am I remembering that right? The bracket?
Yeah, let me look it up. Yeah, so in the Sweet 16, you had Auburn, Ole Miss, Florida, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, Alabama. Yeah, so you had about 6 or 7, and you had a possibility that you had all 4 teams be from the SEC. There was like a legit possibility. So it's absolutely embarrassing, as Zach said, that you're one of the 14. You were of the 14 of the 16 teams in the SEC, 14 made the tournament. It's an absolute embarrassment that LSU was not able to make the tournament, considering the fact that the year before you looked like a competitive basketball team. So a lot of people had expectations that maybe you're going to compete for a tournament spot. But we're here now.
They were projected to finish 14th, and they finished 15th. So, come on.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But anyway, let's go wrap up today's show. Catch us next time, next Monday. Of course, we're going to review. Actually, hey, you want to do something on Saturday? I have to talk to Chris about it. I'm thinking we might do something Saturday, but I'm going to talk to Chris about it. We're going to have to start the show on Monday, regardless. But we might do like a post spring game recap. We might do something here, so stay tuned for that. I'll talk to. I'll have to talk to some people before we can get that straight. But catch our show every Monday at 6:00. And then I think pretty soon here. Hopefully, we can get like a call-in show on Thursday. Just and to where you guys can ask questions or whatnot. Hopefully, we can get that straight. Maybe it's gonna be either gonna be next week or probably at the end of the month. We'll see. I'm glad the channel is growing back again. I've been seeing the view count of videos. So if you really like our content, make sure to like this video and subscribe to LSU at the Voice of College Football. So that way you can stay up in tune with what's going on. Also click on the bell too, because the bell will notify you whenever we release a new video, whether we go live, whether we release a new video, you name it. But anyway, I'm Grant Sashray. This is Zach Junda. We'll see you guys next time on LSU Live at the Voice of College Football Network. See y'all later.